Nobody's better than you, and nobody's smarter than you. If anybody else is at the top of their field, it means that you can be at the top of your field. Just go to them and find out how they got there.
If you behave like a poor person, there's an old saying that poor folks have poor ways. If you behave like a poor person, you'll always be poor. And if someone doesn't like what I do or don't do, that's their problem. It's not my problem.
9 out of 10 things that we try don't work out the way we expected.
No one was ever defeated until they accepted defeat as a reality. No one can ever defeat you but yourself.
Brian Tracy and his 10 rules of greatness.
Act as if you already had the goal that you desire. So let us say, for example, you want to be financially independent. You want to be financially successful. How would you behave if you were financially successful? How would you dress? How would you organize your life? How would you treat other people? Sometimes I say, imagine that you are financially independent. You're independently wealthy, and you're only doing your current job as a courtesy to your boss and to keep yourself busy during the day. But basically, you're an extremely wealthy person. You've inherited an enormous amount of money from some source. How would you behave if you were already the wealthy person that you desire to be? Many people don't realize that if you behave like a poor person, there's an old saying that poor folks have poor ways. If you behave like a poor person, you'll always be poor. If you dress like a bum, if you have a messy home or apartment, if your car is dirty with junk in the back seat, that's how poor people live. And what happens is you're surrounding yourself with the image of being poor. And you cannot change your outer world until you change your inner world.
Nobody's better than you, and nobody's smarter than you. If anybody else is at the top of their field, it means that you can be at the top of your field. Just go to them and find out how they got there, because they started at the bottom. Now, it may take longer for some people and less for others, but everybody who puts one foot in front of the other and keeps moving eventually gets there. And that's where all the rewards are. And not only that, that's where all the joy in life is. When you're really good at what you do, you feel wonderful about yourself. You're respected and esteemed by everybody around you. You can write your own ticket. You can open any door when you're good at what you do. Because you get up in the morning and you know you're good. And that is more important than the rewards that go with it.
A beautiful line I read not long ago said, "The best way to predict the future is to create it," which means to have a vision, and even though the vision is in the air or the sky, then build a foundation under your dreams. And when you see men and women who rise from poverty and obscurity to fame and renown, you invariably see someone who had a vision of what they could be and have and do that was far beyond what they were. Every one of us has had an experience. At one time when we were small, we had a vision of being grown up and having our own cars. And as we grew older, we had a vision of having our own homes and our own families. And as we grew older, we had a vision of traveling and going to Europe. We fulfilled all our visions. The wonderful thing is this, is that we always tend to achieve our goals. The problem is that our goals are set so low that even when we do achieve them, they don't turn us on. They don't fill us with enthusiasm. So dream big dreams, if you like, and focus on results, not activities. This is the key. Be clear about the results that you're trying to accomplish.
What changed my life was when I realized that time management is the sun, and everything that I do is the planets in orbit. Everything we do in life revolves around time, because time is life. Time is the substance of our life. Is that the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your time management. That everything we have or are or ever will be a direct result of how we use our time. And the wonderful thing is we're always free to choose how we use our time.
Two things that millionaires say. Number one is, I was not more talented or smarter. I didn't get better grades than other people. He said, but I was willing to work harder than anyone else. I was willing to work harder than anyone else. I was willing to work harder, start earlier, work harder, stay later than anyone else. And you know, self-made millionaires on average work about 59 hours a week. They work about 6 days a week at 10 hours a day, or 7 or 5 days a week at 12 hours. There are very few wealthy people who work 5 days a week. In fact, there probably aren't any. They may work 5 days a week, but it's way after they've achieved their financial goals.
9 out of 10 things that we try don't work out the way we expected. We have failures in relationships and in jobs and in careers and investments and everything. It's not the failure that holds you back. The failure makes you smarter. We say that it is the fear of failure, not failure, that holds you back. And the way that you overcome failure is you never consider the possibility of failure. The rule is this, is there's no such thing as failure, there's only feedback. Is when you try something that doesn't work, you get feedback, not failure. And recognize that most things you try aren't going to work the first few times. So what you do is you say, oh, that's an interesting bit of feedback. And you pick yourself up and you move forward and you have more feedback and you move forward. To become a self-made millionaire, you're going to fail over and over again, year after year after year. But your brain has a cybernetic mechanism, which means that every time you try something, you get feedback, which makes you smarter. And when you try something else, you get feedback, which makes you smarter. And eventually, you reach the point where you're too smart and you stop making mistakes. You start to do more and more things right and fewer things wrong. But you can't get there unless you have experienced the failures.
Remember, the limitations that you have or that you think you have are the greatest obstacles to your success. In reality, your limitations exist mostly in your own mind. They don't exist in reality. Limitations are things that we impose on our own mind from negative or what my friend Zig calls stinking thinking. Now, a dream list is this. Take a piece of paper in front of you and imagine that you had all the money and all the time. You had all the contacts and all the resources. You had no limitations in terms of knowledge and skill and talent and ability. Anything that you could be, have, or do was possible for you, and say, if I had no limitations, what would I really want in my life today, tomorrow, next week, next year, 5 years, and so on, and write it down, write it down, write it down. Write as fast as you can, write everything that you can imagine. And remember, decide what's right, decide what you really want before you stop to analyze and determine what's possible. Allow yourself to dream.
In William Glasser's work on what they call the fully functioning person, he had a wonderful line. They said, fully functioning people, these are the top 10% of people, never complain and never explain. They never defend themselves. Is they do it or they don't do it, but they never feel that they have to explain themselves to anyone else. If someone doesn't like it, they say, and your point is, and they just don't care. And your job is to reach the point where you say, I like myself. I like myself. I'm responsible for my own life, and if someone doesn't like what I do or don't do, that's their problem. It's not my problem.
And that's basically the secret of success. If you want to be successful in starting a business, then you study what people have learned, and everything that people have learned they've written down or shared in seminars or put onto audio programs is I learned this from a very wise man named Kopmeyer, who spent more than 50 years studying success. And he had developed more than 1,000 success principles that he had derived out of something like 6,000 books. And when I met him, I asked him the question you would ask. Of all these 1,000 principles, because I had studied it all, which is the most important principle of all? And he said, Brian, he said, it's simple. He said, use proven success methods. He said, learn from the experts. He said, Brian, you'll never live long enough to learn it all for yourself. So what I find is that successful people are those who learn from others who've gone before them. Unsuccessful people try to make it all up, like a cook going into the kitchen, taking ingredients out of the cupboards, throwing them all in a bowl, and wondering why it doesn't taste good. This is why people's sales careers, why 80% of salespeople are functioning well below their potential. Only 20% make all the money. Why 20% of businesses in any industry make all the profits. Why 20% of the professionals in any service make 80% of the money, and so on, is because they follow proven success principles, proven recipes, proven formulas, proven combinations, and they just do them over and over again until they master them. Then they can do more and more of them, faster and faster, easier and easier, at a higher level of quality. And all that translates into greater results.
The final courage you need is the courage to persist longer than anyone else. Persistence is the quality that will ultimately guarantee your success. Your willingness to persist in the face of every adversity can be your greatest asset. The ability to persist is the #1 quality for success in every field in life. It can be the one factor that guarantees your success in the end. If you refuse to quit, you must ultimately succeed. Just as in baseball, you won't ultimately hit a home run unless you keep on swinging. In 30 years of studying successful people, I've discovered one fact over and over. No one was ever defeated until they accepted defeat as a reality. No one can ever defeat you but yourself.
Hopefully you've learned something from Brian Tracy. He motivates, he inspires, and has books and courses that can help you along your journey. These 10 rules of greatness are the things that resonate and helped him become where he is today. If you want to follow in his footsteps, or if you have your own path that you want to achieve, adopt some of these behaviors that will help you grow and become the best that you can be. Here's to your success.